Hey there, good morning, y'all. It's Jamie Alasia Roberts, your future candidate for the 2026 U.S. Senate election. As soon as I get sponsorship, which I know by God's grace I'm going to, because God's grace, I am meant to be in that election to run against Cindy Hyde-Smith, who is not Mississippi first. She is MAGA first. She is Trump first. She is anything that Trump wants. And that is not Mississippi first. I am for the poor. I am for the homeless, the hungry. Kind of like Jesus was. Jesus, he loved the poor. He loved the hungry and the homeless. That's who he loved to hang out with. That's who he loved to help. I mean, yes, he helped everyone. He had no exception. But he mainly hung out with the poor, the lowly, the sinners, the thieves, the liars, and prostitutes. And he saved and redeemed them. And I wish to run in the U.S. Senate election because I am people first. So therefore, in my state of Mississippi, I would be Mississippi first. And I say people first, because it's not even about the state of Mississippi. It's not even about people in this state. It's about helping people that come to our state. There's nothing wrong with people coming to another state and seeking asylum from another state that they couldn't get help in, couldn't get jobs in. I apologize, I'm near the airport, the Gulfport, Mississippi airport, so you're probably going to hear the airplane a few times. I apologize. And there's also an Army military base right there as well. But anyways, Jesus was for the poor and the hungry and the homeless, as I was saying. And that's me. I'm for all people. I believe you should be able to go from one country to another to seek asylum. If you're in danger in the country you're in, or you're not getting what you need in the country that you're in, there's nothing wrong with going to another country to get what you need. Just like there's nothing wrong with going from one state to another. If you're living in one state and you're in danger in that state, or even if it's not that, even if it's just too expensive to live there, you can't get a job, or the job you have is just not meeting your needs, and you know that there's cheaper places to live, there's nothing wrong with that. And Trump type people, MAGA party type people, I'm going to say more or less, MAGA party type people, they have a problem with that. They want people to stay in their own cities, their own states, their own countries, and get from that city, state, or country. They don't want them crossing over into new cities or new states or new countries and getting help. They want to diminish the poor population so everything can go to the rich. I mean, that's what it's boiled down to. Kind of like in the biblical days when the Romans and the Pharisees wanted everything for themselves. The Romans wanted everything for themselves, but the Romans agreed to work with the Pharisees and give them some type of power if they agreed, to overtax their people. So they overtaxed their own people to make a little profit and still have enough money to pay taxes to Rome, all while maintaining some type of power over their people as well. And that's kind of like how it is today with, I'm not even going to say just the MAGA Republican Party. There's your bad Democrats. You have people that are bad Democrats in the Democratic Party, bad politicians, period, that are out for themselves, are out for their rich buddies, out for their millionaire friends. So I'm sick and tired of people saying it's just isolated to one party when it's not. It's not isolated just to the MAGA Republican Party. It's not. It's truly not. Yes, they're mainly the ones that do it, but they're not the only ones. And people need to stop worrying about party versus party. Because, see, that's not what I'm doing. I'm not running as a Republican. I'm not running as a Democrat. I'm not running as any type of political party. If you want to define me by a political party, I guess I would be called an independent, because I have independent party beliefs. You know, I share beliefs with some of the different parties. Like, I share some of the Democratic Party's views and beliefs. I share some of the Republicans' views and beliefs. And I share some of the other independent party members' views and beliefs. That's what type of person I am. It's not cherry picking. It's agreeing to disagree. There's certain things that people say in political parties that are immorally wrong. So it's okay to disagree with that. That's not cherry picking. That's doing the right thing by the people, by not agreeing with something that you know is wrong, that you know it's going to hurt the country or hurt the people. And agreeing with stuff that you know is going to help the country, it's going to help the people, agreeing with good things, that's not cherry picking. That's, again, just proper judgment. You agree to disagree. There's no cherry picking. You agree to disagree. Same thing with verses in the Bible. Certain verses were written by man's perspective. The words they got from Jesus, but they interpreted it the wrong way. Some of them interpreted them the right way. Some of them interpreted them the wrong way. You just have to agree to disagree, instead of going into all these long, unnecessary debates when there's so much more happening in the world. So many people homeless and hungry and starving and poor and suffering. And Mississippi right here is one of those states. That's why we're called the lowest of the lowest states. The poorest of the 50 states is what we're always called. And I am tired of that. The people we have in office, the governor, the 2 senators, Senator Hyde-Smith, the one that I wish to run against and that I'm going to run against in the 2026 election, and then Senator Wicker, that's here until 2030, I believe. And the governor, Reeves, that we have. Medical marijuana has been legal for 2 years now. Why are we not thriving and booming and giving out assistance checks to our people like California and Colorado is doing? And I'm sure there's a few other states that, because of their medical marijuana and even the recreational marijuana, but even medical marijuana alone, before recreational marijuana was passed in any of the states, medical marijuana alone brought in enough taxes to use to give out checks to people in need. I'm talking about not single mothers with children. I'm talking about single people, period. I'm talking about to a single man or to a single woman or to a married couple that had no children at all. They got what was called general assistance checks to help them until they got a job, up to 3 months' time, or if they were applying for disability, it was up to 1 year's time. I get that from California because when I lived in California, that's how I made it, was on that very program. And they also give you health insurance, free health insurance to see doctors until you can get a job that has insurance or get approved for Medicaid or get on disability, Social Security, or whatever that gives you Medicaid automatically, or Medicaid, Medicare. They give you, in addition to the check to help you out and live and survive, they also give you that. and then you can be eligible for the full amount allowed of food stamps, and they won't count the money that they give you in the general assistance check as an income and deduct it from your food stamps in any kind of way. There are states, I know one of them for sure, I'm sure Colorado has it too, but I know one of them for sure, California, does have that. And I believe all the states with the medical marijuana program, especially if they have both medical marijuana and recreational marijuana legal, definitely should be having programs to where they're taking some of that tax money and helping out the poor and the homeless, the hungry, the low income, the ones who are deeply, strongly in need, especially in this great recession with all these prices steadily rising because of these high tariffs. The same thing that the Pharisees had to deal with from the Romans and back and forth as such. They had such high tariffs, so they had to tax their people that delivered stuff to them from Judea to Capernaum, for example. The Pharisees would have to pay a high shipping price because of the high tariffs that Rome, which back then symbolized the Republican Party, had high tariffs because of Caesar. So in return for that, the Pharisees, which were the Democrats of that time, they overtaxed their own people to compensate for what they had to spend so they could still make a profit themselves. So whether we have a Democrat or a Republican or whatever party in charge of this state, it does not matter. Or not even in charge of the state in general. To have whatever party affiliated senator in the U.S. House of Senates to represent over the state of Mississippi could help it improve. And that's what I want to do. I want to help Mississippi thrive again. Because I'm sure at one time it really thrived. I have faith that at one point in time Mississippi did thrive. It might have not thrived in a good way, and it might have not thrived the right way, but it thrived. And I want to help Mississippi thrive again, but in the right way, in the good way. Helping the poor and the homeless and the hungry and the needy. Establishing programs that do just that. Taking tax money from the medical marijuana. And I'm sure not all the states that have medical marijuana take their tax dollars and do the things that I'm saying that Mississippi should do, but I'm not running for senator in those states. I wish I could run in senator for a lot of states or whatever, or do that or whatever, be some kind of advocate for multiple states. I would love that, but unfortunately I can only do one state at a time, one thing at a time, because I'm going to work my way up the ladder. God's going to help me. I know that. I know my mission in life now. I didn't understand it before, but I understand it now. And it was to do just this. That's why I've never been married. I've raised children, adopted 2 children and raised them, but I've never been married. Been in lots of relationships. One of them was a pretty long relationship and almost marriage. But I'm not going to get into that because that's no one's business. I will say that I am a new person today in God, and this person that I am today in God believes that we need someone in the government, whether it be governor or in this case me running for U.S. Senate, that wasn't born with a silver spoon in their mouth, that knows what it's like to stand in line at the plasma center to donate blood, to make some money, to pay a room for a night or a couple of nights over your head, or food in your belly, or money to build up to put towards your rent if you're renting an actual place, apartment or something like that, rather than a motel room. Someone like me that knows what it's like to stand in line at the pawn shop to pawn whatever you have to pawn to make money to buy food, or again to pay a night or a couple of nights in the motel, or whatever emergency you need it for, because you're struggling, because there's not enough programs that help. And the ones that do help have so many restrictions. Oh, you have to be a member of our church, or you have to jump through this hoop or that hoop. And you have a lot of places that are actually color biased. They honestly are. Like a lot of places help, and I'm not gonna be the one to specify which one on that. I'm just not gonna do that. I'm not gonna pinpoint. I'm only gonna simply say that there's different organizations that each the one of them help a certain skin tone more than they do the other skin tones. And it varies from different place to place. And it shouldn't be like that, because first of all, we shouldn't be labeled or defined by a skin tone. I want to work whatever law I can help put into place, or whatever I can do to put an end to the use of people saying, oh, that white person, or that black person, or that brown person, or that dark brown person, or that yellow or red person. I want to put an end to that. Because when the Lord calls us, he calls us by name. The name that our birth mother gave us at birth, or the name that he gives us, like for example with Peter in the Bible, who was originally named Simon the disciple. Only Jesus later on renamed him to Peter the apostle. Peter meaning the rock. That's what I want to be for Mississippi, a rock. My name's not Peter, it's Jamie Alasia. You can call me Jamie or Alasia or Senator Roberts, Madam Roberts, Madam Senator. But that's what I want to be. That's what we need. We need someone who's lived in motels when they had no place to go, or who's had to sleep in a storage unit, or who's had to sleep on the beach, or sleep in the car. Someone who knows truly what it's like to struggle. That's who we need. Someone like me. Someone that will focus on the things that matter. Yes, trans issues matter, LGBTQ, all those gay and all those women's rights and all of those different types of human rights. Yes, they matter. I am not saying that they don't. As a transgender woman, I am saying that they don't. I'm just saying they don't matter right now. Why worry about who's trans and who's not? Or who has, this or that, or this or that over that? Who allows this and who allows that in what school of that school or this school or that library or whatever? Those new types of laws put into place are not going to help the hungry. That's not going to help the homeless, people that are poor and starving, that need help to pay their rent or their utility, such as lights, gas, water, even their phone bill. A cell phone is not a luxury anymore. It's a necessity. Because like landline phones are like the dinosaurs, extinct. So, I know businesses have landline phones, but that's businesses. And even some of your mom and pop businesses are even using their cell phones as their phone for their business. So that should be factored in as a credit when you're applying for programs, because that'll help you get more assistance. Because though they say a cell phone is a luxury, no, it's not a luxury. And yeah, you can get these government free phones, but you don't always get approved. And when you do, the phones are so trash quality, they break within 2 days. I know, I tested the theory. Generation Mobile, I went and got a free government phone from them. It stopped working properly in less than 24 hours. It still works, but it freezes up a lot. It goes extremely slow. You can't have very much downloaded on it at all. There's like one game able to be downloaded on it. Maybe two at the max, depends on the size of the other game. And that's it. And I know some will say something is better than nothing, but if you're going to give people government phones, then give them a reliable phone at least. And the state of Mississippi doesn't have a provider of government phones that does that. They either want you to bring your own phone, or you have the one like Generation Mobile that gives you the crappy phones that practically go obsolete in less than 24 hours. Like they work for 24 hours and then they die. And then they start kind of working, kind of like functioning on the level line. Kind of like Mississippi is. We're functioning on a level line. I mean, for crying out loud, once upon a time, and I don't know if it's still happening, but once upon a time for a while, there was it was Biloxi PD, I believe, that I read in the newspaper that was bringing people to the homeless shelter in Mobile, Alabama. Why not bring them to somewhere here? We have homeless shelters here. And if it's over full, try to get a hold of a church that can maybe put them up in the hotel for a night or two or something. And see if we had these better programs. Apologize, another airplane. If we had these better programs in place that I'm talking about, like my vision is to have start with one, but end up with a few in the state of Mississippi, motels that are strictly for the homeless, that you can give a voucher to, and they can go there and stay for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or up to 30 days, depending on their circumstance. If they're disabled, then maybe they should be given up to 90 days. In that meantime, give them resources. If they're workers, give them resources to help them get a new job if they don't have one. Help them get a better job if the one they have is not providing enough to where they ended up homeless in the first place, or at least as a second job. And if they're on disability, help them get fast-tracked into getting on some type of Section 8 low-income housing. I believe if we had that, we wouldn't need to ship people to another state for them to get help there, only to become productive members of that state's society once they do get help, get jobs, get a place to live. All of that money is now going into the state that they were shipped over to. Meanwhile, if we had proper programs in place here in the state of Mississippi, we would be able to help those people here get on the right track of getting a job, getting a place to live, helping them get a vehicle or some type of means of transportation to and from work, at least. And with that, them working, paying taxes, paying rent, paying cable internet, light bill, gas bill, water bill, all of that gets taxed. That's becoming a productive member of Mississippi's society, not another state's society. That's why I and my mother and my brother, when he was young, he was 14, we had to go live in California with my mom's brother because we could not afford to live here. And her and my father at the time were in a separation where they were not divorced, but they were separated. So I'm not going to get into any details of that. I'm just going to say they mutually decided, that was best, and so we went and stayed with my uncle. And Sorry, I'm trying to make sure my papers don't fly away. But as a result, yeah, we had to go stay over in California with family, with my uncle, her brother, her younger brother. And that's how I learned about their programs. Well, I knew about it already because we stayed with him once before for a couple of months in 2010. And then we went back again in 2012. The first time was for a vacation. That's when my parents first separated. And the second time was to actually live. Well, we were gonna decide to live there the first time, but things didn't work out, and it definitely stayed as a vacation, and we went home. But long story short, I'm not going to derate into that. The point I'm trying to make is that's how I know about that. And yes, again, there's going to be people saying, well, not every state that has medical marijuana legalized, may offer the things that you're saying. And you may be right. And my response earlier was was a decent response, but it was not the best response. Because my best response is to instead say that those other states probably do have programs that help. They're probably not the exact ones that I'm mentioning and that I'm thinking of for this state, because they may decide to do things differently. But I'm sure that all of the states that have medical marijuana legalized, they have programs in place to help the homeless and the hungry, the poor, the low income. Lots of them. Florida is another one. I know that because I've lived there a few times as a teenager, as an adult as well. So I know they do. I know Louisiana does. Florida even had those programs before medical marijuana became legal in their state. And now they have even more of them since it's became legal. Because I've lived there since it's became legal. Louisiana as well. Louisiana has a lot of places in place. They have a homeless coalition in place that helps you. Now, I don't like the way of how they operate it and how they do it, but they do have one. Yes, we do have one here in Gulfport, Mississippi as well, but I feel like it's not being ran properly. I feel like they're not helping as good as they can. They're not helping people as much as they should. And I know of an experience from someone who I will not mention them out of privacy that dealt with Open Doors directly and was promised a year of assistance, up to a year of assistance because they were disabled. And that director person never called that person back like they said they were going to. Instead, a disrespectful supervisor called that person back and said, no, it's 6 months. Well, it only ended up being 5 months. And the person had to move out of their home into a hotel. Not even, I'd say, 2 weeks after they moved into the hotel, they were notified by their caseworker that the rent to help for the 6th month, the rent for that month had been sent in. And the person was dumbfounded because they even told their caseworker, hey, they're saying they haven't gotten the last check from you for the 6th month. So they're that person told their caseworker, they're evicting me out. And even sent a copy of the eviction notice. This person, I found out, sent a copy of the eviction notice to their caseworker. So they knew all of this information. And they still paid the landlord another month's rent. They never got the month's rent back. They never got the deposit back that they paid either. And they were also notified by this person I won't identify that they were also had been overpaying the landlord by like nearly $30, which does count, because that $30 over those 5 months could have went towards other rental checks to help other people. The caseworker was notified of that and nothing was ever done about it. And do you know when the person went back to them I think a year later to get help again, because that put them in a bad bind the way that happened? You know, especially after the director of that organization told the unidentified person that I'm talking about that with them being disabled and their condition of disability and all that, that they would have a year pay, like a year, not maybe up to a year, no, definitely up to a year, like paid all the way up till the 12th month. The 12th month would be the last. That's 1 year. And that's what I mean by needing better people in government, because if you had better people in government, people like that wouldn't exist at programs like that. Those type of people would not exist in those programs at all, because we would be scouring those programs properly for any types of people that act like that, because several complaints was filed against all of them. The director never called back the unidentified person and filed a complaint to Jackson to get it across someone's desk that would be over this director person, like a board of representatives. It was passed over to the board of representatives because the unidentified person found that information out, that it was passed over to the board of representatives that was over that director lady for the Open Doors Homeless Coalition in Gulfport, Mississippi, and still nothing was done. And then a year later to be denied help with some lame BS excuse to the person that I'm talking about. That is awful. And that's why we need better leadership in government, because that's where it starts. If you have better leadership in government, you can make sure city programs like that in the state that you represent, or Senate over, or governor over, has proper people in place that respect basic human decency, that don't say one thing and then do the opposite, that promises one thing but you end up getting the opposite. Like in that person's case, they were promised, because of their disability and the type of disability they had, that they could get up to a year's assistance, definitely 12 months. Because the person goes, oh, I thought I was only approved to get 6 months. The director told the person, no, because of your disability and type of disability you have, which your caseworker did not inform us of, which the person did inform their caseworker. The caseworker just didn't communicate it to no one else, because it was made direct attention aware to the director of the program. She says, yes, I'm going to get that taken care of. It'll be 1 year. And instead of her calling back and saying, yes, it's taken care of, it was a snobby, disgusting supervisor who dehumanized the unidentified person that I'm talking about and said that, no, it's 6 months. And if we could have proper people in the government and the higher up offices like like I say, the Senate or the House of Representatives or the governor's office, then we would have those people in better check. We would have those programs in better check. Like land like this. All of this land right here. This land, or that land right there. All of that could be used to build a building. You don't have, no one's asking to put a homeless shelter in a prominent business area like this. At least put buildings here that can help people, that can, help different types of people, not just people with children or people with disabilities, people that are just one person alone, whether it be a man or a woman, or a married couple or a couple that has no kids, an adult that has no kids. There should be a program in place to help them in this state. You shouldn't have to bear children in this state to get help. And if we could build buildings on land like this, if we could build buildings that had offices in it, different offices that had different types of programs that helped in different types of ways, with housing assistance, food assistance, different from SNAP, because, there's people that can't get approved for food stamps. So there's people that still need food assistance that should be able to get helped if they're not approved by food stamps. There should be a better program in place than the food pantry. You should be able to get like a food voucher once every month if you're pulling in the right taxes from medical marijuana and then all of these casinos we have in the state of Mississippi. You can pull in the right taxes. You can do things like that. Apologize, another airplane. I'm going to be ending this soon anyways. We're almost to 40 minutes. I don't want to be long. But bottom line is, if we had programs in place, buildings on land like this beautiful God's green earth, if we had buildings with offices in it that had programs in place like that could help people that weren't eligible for food stamps with food, with a better program than the food bank. God bless the food bank. It gives the food that it can, that it gets donated to it. And thank God for that, because something is better than nothing, yes. But we need to try to do better. We need to try to, I apologize, trying to fix my hair in this wind and this hot weather, a little hot, not too windy, a little hot. We should have better programs in place that can do things like that. I remember back when I was 10 years old, in Biloxi, Mississippi, you could go to I can't remember if it was a church or what it was, but you could go there and they would give you a voucher for $5, because at the time, that's what a combo cost. They would give you a voucher for $5 and you could go to this little place called Jiffy Jack's, I think is what it was called, to get a hamburger, a fries, and a drink. And they would do that quite often. Like, they didn't have, they had a limit on it, but it wasn't a strict limit. That's because at that time, we had people in office, whether it be Republican or Democrat. Again, I'm not going after a certain party. I'm saying there's bad politicians in every party. There's politicians in every party that mishandle funds in states and don't allocate for proper programs. Not just the Republicans, the Democrats do it too. The independents, other independents, I'm sure have done it. If they haven't, I apologize. I'm just trying to make the example that I'm not trying to blame it to one party. I'm not trying to come after one party. MAGA, I don't really consider it a party anymore, because I've noticed a lot of MAGA type Democrat people. Like these Democratic people that say they hate the MAGA party or cannot stand the MAGA party so much, the MAGA Republicans, but they act just like them when they spew the same kind of hate and give back the same kind of energy that the MAGA Republicans are giving to them. When they give that same kind of energy back and act that same kind of way, you're practically a MAGA Democrat. And I'm sure this is going to piss a lot of people off, and that's okay. I'm not here to worry about pissing people off. If I was, I wouldn't run for U.S. Senator. And I say run because it's going to happen. No, I'm here to help people, to heal. To help and to heal, as I've always done to all of my friends and family members throughout my life. I've always helped and I've always healed. That has always been me. Yes, even I have had my bad moments, a lot of bad moments, and made a lot of choices that I shouldn't have made. And I've atoned for every single one of them. And now I'm grown, 40, almost 41-year-old woman that has atoned for everything in my past and has been redeemed by the Lord because He has dropped the charges. And now I'm trying to make something out of my life that God redeemed and blessed me with and gave me anew, making me a better person. I'm trying to do something with all of that. And I feel with no doubt in my heart that being U.S. Senator is that very thing. That is my very place of power. My seat at the table of all my enemies and everyone who mocked me and laughed at me and thought I was crazy and all the bad and awful things that they did to me or said about me. And I believe that it's not going to be just for that. It's going to also be my seat and position to take my voice that I have, because I love being the voice of the voiceless, taking my voice that I have and bringing it to a higher level with a seed of power behind it to do good with, to make sure that the right things are focused on first. Humanitarian aid to our own people. I agree with that. Yes, we should help other countries. Yes, definitely. But right now, in this current situation, our own country is in need. Our own state right here in Mississippi is in dire need, believe it or not. Because there's a lot of people living in motels because of the cost of living getting higher and higher due to these tariffs and all this craziness. I know I'm one of them. So that's why I can relate 100%. And I'm definitely the right candidate to put in place, and definitely the right candidate to win the U.S. Senator 2026 election and unseat Cindy Hyde-Smith. Because I've lived the actual homeless, poor life, struggle life experience. I've lived in Mississippi for over 25 years of my life. And I've experienced a lot in this state. My highs, my lows, my mediums, my setbacks, my comebacks, my rises, my falls. And yes, I'm not going to lie, there's programs that have helped me. There are churches that have helped me tremendously back in 2022. Thanks to those several different churches that helped. But now you don't even have that today. Now today you have to belong to the church or go through a certain church or certain center or something like that to get any kind of help. You can't just call any kind of church like you were able to a couple of years or so ago. You cannot do that. We need better programs in place, people. So, if you agree with me, or if you at least agree to where I'm coming from in my heart and can help give me advice to lead me in a better direction, I'm all ears for better ways to word and say this. So when the election does come up and I run my campaign, by the grace of God, I am going to win it. But I want to win it fairly. I don't want to do no bashing, no criticizing, no none of that. I don't want to have to go low in any kind of way. I just want to speak the truth, speak to the people, tell the people the truth, which is, I see that you're struggling because I've lived the struggle too. Heck, like I said, I'm living it right now. I'm past 45 minutes going up, so I love you all, and I'm about to make another video probably here in a little bit, probably a couple of hours maybe this afternoon or something like that. In the evening time, it may not be outside, it may be inside, because it is quite hot, and as you can see, I'm sweating pretty badly. I'm a heavy lady, you know, and I'm very hot-natured, so I sweat easy, and I'm also type 2 diabetic with high blood pressure, so I sweat easy. But anyways, like I said, that's it for now. Love you guys, and again, remember to share, like, and subscribe so we can push and get me properly nominated for U.S. Senator in the 2026 election. And so I can hopefully gather enough, and I'm not going to say hopefully. I know by the grace of God, I will gather enough votes in Mississippi to win that 2026 election and unseat Cindy Hyde-Smith. Because I know that's what God wants. Because that's not something I've ever thought of doing ever in my life. I always wanted to work on computers or, do some stuff like that. I never thought of going for a position or a seat or anything like that so I could be the voice of the voiceless, the voice of the poor, the struggling, and to help them and to make sure that they come first and that they see that they matter right now, and everything else can go on the back burner in the meantime. And then once everybody's not struggling, then those things can be talked about. Then trans or this or that or whatever can be discussed. But right now, and I'm even again saying this as a transgender woman, my main focus, because I've lived 40 years and I've been through it all. So at this point, temporarily screw the fight on the trans right agenda or thing, because it's going to be a hard battle with who we got in office. So the main thing right now is we should take our voices and put everything that we're fighting for our communities, trans, gay, bisexual, whatever community it is, even non-LGBT communities. Let's put all of that aside and let's all of us band together and worry about helping the homeless and the poor, the sick. Like Simon said to Matthew in the Bible, the one thing about the Jewish people is although they go through pain and suffering and torment, struggle, being poor, homeless, sick, and hungry, no matter what they faced, they done it all together. It was all together. They stuck together and helped each other out. They fed one another when the other one didn't have food. They clothed one another when the other one didn't have clothes. They house one another when the other needs shelter. They helped each other. They were humanitarians, true humanitarians. And yes, there were other ones in those times, but the Jews were more famous for it. Anyways, at 50 minutes, don't want to go to an hour. I love you guys so very much, and I'll see you for another episode later on this afternoon or this evening. Today is May 18th. I'm signing off. I love you.